Thank you so much, Sam, for joining us today. I'm so happy to have you here, especially during this time where a lot of small business owners and female entrepreneurs are having a hard time, and they want to hear from leaders, industry leaders, about how they're thinking about the future and how they should reshape their business. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I was born in the New York area. I've grown up really on the East Coast, so spent all my working years and school years here. Um, for much of my life, I really thought I would be a writer, a journalist, a reporter, and started to do that a lot in college, left college, and went into journalism. But I went in for the first time to business journalism, and I realized in doing that I just loved the stories behind businesses. I really enjoyed hearing about how businesses were created, how people behind them thought about new products, serving consumers or their customers. And so I wanted to learn more about business so I could be a better writer. So I ended up taking a detour from journalism. I went into investment banking, which was very different, a very different field. So, really had to kind of pivot to do that. And ultimately went to business school where I studied thinking I would go back into journalism and media, or at least go into the business side of media. But I never did. I went into consulting, as many people do after business school. And from there, went into financial services. So I'm back in a bank now, JPMorgan Chase, which was ironic because I never thought I would be kind of after the investment banking years. But it has been a terrific place for me, and a great mobility experience for me. I've had several jobs at the bank in my 8 years here, and now I'm the head of a program called Women on the Move.
One quick question. How did you make a move from journalism to investment banking, which is one of the most competitive sector, and not having a traditional path? You would have a really difficult time switching from journalism to banking.
So at the time I was making that decision, I was living in Washington, and many of my friends in Washington, we spent a year out of school. They were going on to law school, to other graduate programs. And so I thought maybe this is my chance too, to do something else and do my next thing. And I started talking to a lot of friends who were already in banking or consulting, and really just prepared a lot for the interviews that I knew would come, the case study like interviews, the problem solving interviews, those analytical questions. And so I was able to get an interview in an investment bank, and did well enough there to get an offer. And I remember actually some other analysts who were interviewing me said to me, "Why do you want to come to this job? Your job sounds really interesting. Are you sure you want to be there?" That was their sell to me. And in retrospect, I realized, well, maybe they were trying to tell me something. I don't know. But I thought that was really funny. But, it was a great experience. It was very hard. It was truly hard for me to do. I was not a finance major. I did not have, an analytical background. I was not good with Excel spreadsheets before I arrived there. And so I really had to do a lot of learning and fast learning. It was a very tough environment. So, I'm glad I had that, and glad that I was able to have those skills. But a strange detour for me, for sure, personally.
Do you think your journalism background sort of helped you in the long run because you were questioning things or asking things that were not conventional?
Absolutely. I think the skills of a journalist to be able to gather information, talk to a lot of people, uncover things, keep sniffing things out when they don't feel right, and then put that together in a story and some sort of compelling communications. Those are skills I use all the time, certainly still in business. And the speed with which you have to work now, I'm really happy. Early in my journalism days, I worked at a newswire kind of outlet, because I was writing multiple times a day under deadlines all the time. And I feel like that really served me well today, because I'm able to do that still.
Fantastic. My next question is, how did you get involved with the Women on the Move?
So about 2.5 years ago, some of our company executives thought that the time was right to really stand up a formal program, a full-time role with a team that would be focused on women. And up until that point, we had had a team focused on our Black executives, our Black employees within the company. We had also had a team that was focused on veterans and how to get veterans more roles in the company and more jobs outside. So women was sort of that next large group that we really wanted to tackle in a very dedicated way. And our CEO, Jamie Dimon, really believes if you want to have something done, you put someone on it full time. And so now is the time. And when I heard that this was coming to be and they were very serious about this, I raised my hand to step into the role. I was in a great job that I really loved. I was the chief marketing officer of our commercial bank, and I never would have left that job were it not for something like this, which was so personally meaningful to me. And so that's how it came about, which I like to tell people, you need that network around you so you can always hear about these things, because this wasn't a posted job. This wasn't something they were publicly talking about, but I knew about this based on my peers and mentors. And you also have to tell people what you want to do. So I was raising my hand for this and stepping in and helping and trying to drive the early job description creation because I was so interested. So keep that in mind when you're looking for your next opportunity.
That's great. It was a study done by Harvard where they say they did a school kids, I think first grade, and they say boys raise their hand when they're about 20% sure, and girls raise their hand when they're about 95% sure. So this is another thing. You just have to ask and sort of, go for what you really want. So thank you for sharing that.
We see something similar when it comes to applying for jobs.
Yes.
That men will look at job descriptions and say, well, I got 60% of that, I'm applying. And women will look and say, unless they have 80 or 90% of those qualifications, they're not applying, which as a manager writing these job descriptions, I can tell you, I do not expect a candidate to have 90 to 100% of the job qualifications. I want someone who can meet many of them and be taught the rest. So I want to just encourage women when they're looking at things like that to raise your hand and put yourself in that opportunity flow. Because if you don't do that, you will never get that.
Thank you. That's amazing. But more tactical question, how do you tackle such endeavor and how do you set short-term and long-term goals?
When it came time to thinking about our strategy, we wanted to be focused on a core set of things, and we wanted to do things that we thought our bank was uniquely positioned to do. And so when we wanted to help our clients, our business clients, our consumer clients, we thought, well, we fund businesses all day, every day. That's what we do. So naturally, that was an extension of what we wanted to help women to do more of. And when it came to consumers, we managed their money. We handled their savings accounts, their investments accounts. So we knew talking to women was a part of what we already did. Why don't we elevate those conversations and do more, reach them more, encourage them to do even more, have a different level of emotional conversation. And so we knew by taking existing activities and extending into them with a specific focus on women, that those were the right places to focus. And then on the employee side, which we still are very focused on, we long had goals for the organization in terms of women's representation. We have a business resource group now called Women on the Move. We've had that for decades. And so extending, more of our activities through that resource group and through our businesses just was a natural fit for us. I would love to do many more things to support women. I would love to work on women's health care, for example. It's just not core to what we do as a financial institution. And so we need to stay really focused on what we can do best right now. But we do try to set goals on these things. So even though it can feel very hard to manage and measure, how do you improve women's position in society, we try to take a very specific view. How many women can we fund? How much money can we provide to them? How much in savings can we encourage women to put away? How many women can we get in the door at JPMorgan and into senior level roles? We can measure all of those things. And so we do, we put big goals out there for ourselves and we try to drive toward those with all sorts of supporting activities. One of the first things we tried to do was set a goal around lending, which is we're going to lend $10 billion to female-owned businesses in a 3-year period. And now it's year 2. We were on track in our first year. We met a third of that goal. And, hopefully in this environment, we can still meet women's needs even in this crisis.
And you also work with helping create the next generation. women who want to get into banking as well.
Yes, we're always talking to women coming out of colleges and universities who want to be in these roles. We have a great emphasis on diversity and that message, and really making sure women and men on campuses hear this. We, Women on the Move, do a lot of things with even younger girls. So we have a sponsorship with Girls Inc., one of the largest nonprofits that serve girls in the US and Canada. And by providing them with financial education, we're reaching, more than 20,000 girls a year on financial literacy, not only so they have it for their personal needs and knowledge, but hopefully to be exposed to careers in banking and other STEM fields. We really are hoping that talking to girls early, as young as 12 years old, we can help them see a future in these industries.
That's fantastic. And I know I worked for UNICEF for about a year in a consulting job. And I know helping women and girls, actually, the ripple effect is much greater, just because they are the givers. They have the children, they have babies, they are the ones on a daily basis helping groom their children. So educating women actually has a lot of ripple effect. Not that any other cause is less, less honorable, but you get a greater, if you talk about business, you get a greater ROI on, and a long-term ROI on supporting women. With that, the world has changed quite a lot. And very, very quickly. It's upside down, flipped over many times. How have you personally and also professionally adjusted to all this?
On the professional front, when we were into the crisis, we took a look at our goals and we thought, which of these are going to be the most critical to focus on for women right now? And which of these can we try to park to maybe even just move out to next year? And the most critical ones really were around helping women small business owners with financial solvency of their business, with getting through this crisis, whether that was in lending or in just cash flow management and day-to-day operations of their business. And so what our team has done is put together cash flow management content and tools that we'll be rolling out in July to provide this to women on our website, in other partner channels that we work with. And frankly, it benefits them too. But we wanted to have, women know that there are resources out there for them to take advantage of at this moment when we know the world is on fire and they're just worried about keeping their businesses afloat. So that was one piece, this cash flow focus. And we're going to expand that conversation to talk about other ways to help your business pivot in this time. When it came to consumers, we wanted to make sure we were out there really quickly with information on how to use an individual, try to save so you have less money going out the door, or if you're still investing and able to invest, maybe you still are in your job, staying calm, staying rational, not feeling so much panic with the markets going up and down, but knowing that if you're in this for the long haul and your goals haven't changed, that you really just need to stay invested and talk to someone, an advisor, about this. So we wanted to make sure really the name of the game was on personal and business liquidity. How do you stay liquid in this moment? How do you stay solvent? How do you stay stable? And obviously after that, we want to make sure people are growing again. So that's what we tried to do first and foremost. I would say, over the past week and a half, 2 weeks, with the national conversation really focusing on social justice and the injustices facing the Black community, it's meant just a whole lot of other deeper conversations at work, outside of work, with colleagues, with friends, with Black women, with white women, to make sure everyone is really taking the time to understand this is a pivotal moment and we can't let this opportunity to have these conversations go away. And it is my hope we won't, that this will be a sustained conversation leading to real change for the Black community and Black women.
I have a friend married to an African American man. I was surprised, and they have 2 boys. And she says, and she's Asian. And she says she had to actually, not train, but talk to her boys about how they behave outside. Even like what kind of music they listen to or how they talked. It was so surprising to me that she had to have this conversation with them at such a young age, because she didn't want them to obviously, be perceived in a certain way or get in trouble and be in harm. So obviously, she's protecting them, but it's a hard conversation. So yeah, and how have you dealt with it personally as a career woman and mom, staying home, juggling thousand things at once, like all of us, but
Yes. So, right now at work, we actually have a whole new diversity and inclusion organization that we're formalizing. We have a new head of diversity and inclusion for the bank for the first time, and he's 30 days into the job. So my new boss. So talk about trial by fire. He is really doing an excellent job and is in the thick of it. But we are talking about this with everyone. So every business, every function, our teams, our clients, we are making sure we take every opportunity to have these conversations in the office. And with the acknowledgement that we don't have all the answers, we might say stupid things. We don't mean to, but silence is the worst option and not a good option, a bad option. So you have to have these really difficult conversations. And I'm hearing things from teams along the lines of, I can't believe we're talking about this. I've never talked about these things at work. That was the most honest, genuine, open, hard conversation I've ever had. And many people are saying those things. So I'm hopeful with that. I do try to take it home as well. My kids are in elementary school and they're younger. So really only my oldest son and really, hears and understands what's happening. But we're taking the time to talk to him about, our community, the privileges he's had in his life, how others don't have those things, and what his responsibility is. And I'm sure we'll continue that conversation with my other kids as they get older.
a very delicate conversation with us, with my kids as well. I mean, they're young, they're 11 and 8. Obviously, mixed race kids, living in New York City, which I thought was a fantastic. What better way to live, having all these different cultures sort of cross and have access to so many different cultures and people. And then just the other day, we saw the protest. It was a peaceful one. There was no violence, thank God. But I think I'm telling them how important this is because they're witnessing and making history, and these are the things that their children will learn about at school. So it's very important that they're present. So thank you for sharing that. So let's go to some of more fun or less serious conversation since it is Friday. So
Hard to remember. The days are a blur.
oh my God, tell me about it. I can't believe it's June.
So yeah.
So what book are you reading? Or what books what are some of your top recommended books? Fun and serious in learning.
Yes. Well, let's see. I'm actually reading a book right now that is not about business. It's The Artist's Way. I hope I'm getting that right. But it is a book around how to kind of nurture your inner artist and develop either artistic skills you wanted to or just more of a creative vibe. And I think I started to gravitate toward this book, particularly in quarantine, as me, at least myself, was so focused on either getting a job done, cooking dinner, making sure my kids were on their Zoom classes, and there was no time for me, no time to do anything else. And as I mentioned, I've been a writer really my whole life. And so getting back to writing, even if it's just journaling, is something I was really looking forward to. So this book is sort of helping me with those skills and tools and uncovering that inner artist, which we'll see how it goes after all is done. Now, and let me be clear, I know in quarantine, in the beginning, we started seeing all these things online, like be productive in quarantine, learn a new language, and write your novel. And I'm not talking about that. I'm not striving for that. I strive to just, get through the day pretty much with kids and work. But I wanted to find some outlet for myself that would help me, mentally with this whole time.
I had the same thing. I actually downloaded Babbel, downloaded all these recipes. I had my books stacked. I haven't touched any of them.
I know. I know. Listen, we have good expectations and don't hold yourself to them.
I
The
know.
other book, though, I wanted to mention I read recently was Melinda Gates's book, The Moment of Lift. And this was obviously key to my line of work, but something that was so powerful to me because she really breaks down in so many places in the world and industries that when you empower women and when you empower them both from an economic perspective but also from a personal, emotional, physical perspective, there is so much you can unleash in terms of um, what they can achieve and accomplish and give back, clearly, as you mentioned, right, with your UNICEF work. And I just really got inspired by how she's traveled the globe into the worst parts of the world and talked to women and communities about really removing those barriers for women. And a lot of times she talks about cultural barriers, physical barriers, violence, and how powerful that is when we can just open eyes to what can be done. So I really took away from that there can be change. It can be very difficult, but having these conversations, these tough conversations, is what is going to make the difference.
Yeah, even access to clean water makes a women's education far along because the little girl who should be in school is getting fetching water for the family instead of going to school. So totally agree. With that, I think it's a good lead to who inspires you and or what inspires you to do this.
I have to say, one of my living inspirations is Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She started her career at a time when women were not afforded many opportunities. She was not able to get jobs in these big law firms and instead really went on her own to work on social justice issues. And just the thought that she went through the best institutions, just like her male colleagues. She was probably not given the best reception at those institutions, was one of very few women. And then coming out of this, top of her class, still couldn't get these jobs. I mean, the brain on this woman is so phenomenal. Who wouldn't want the power and the brains behind her? I mean, I'm amazed by just what she accomplished and kept going through and kept going through. But then to be in a role where she really created that, where she was able to do so much change on a policy and legislative front for years. And she just didn't accept no. She just found other ways to contribute to society. And thank God was recognized for that and has been a Supreme Court justice now for decades. I just find her incredibly inspiring. She's been devoted to women her whole life, still has such power to influence life for us. I will never stop because of her. She can work to this age, given her health concerns, given everything that she's been through. There's no stopping the rest of us. We got to keep going.
I mean, perseverance. I mean, she's extremely intelligent, but I think it's that perseverance that got her through. I mean, I can't imagine how many times she's been knocked down. Her door shut in her face, even though she knew she was capable of doing so much more and beyond. So yeah, she is extremely inspiring. The fact that she's still working, she's still fighting for all of us, when she could be, on a beach somewhere, just relaxing here on Earth to sort of work and make the planet better. So whatever way we could contribute is great. With that, once we open up, what are some of your to-dos once we're back to the new norm? Fun and work related or just anything. What do you miss the
Yeah.
most?
I miss seeing people. I miss seeing people in the office, which when we go back, by the way, will still not be the same. So I will not be able to give people big hugs. I will not be able to sit close to them. For a while, it is going to be different. But I do want to see people again in person. I want to re-engage with the community. I want to go out to see the small business owners that we're working with every day. I've loved getting back to my original passion around stories. I've loved talking to small business owners, female small business owners, around how they created their businesses. And I love being in their businesses, right? If they have a retail shop, if they're in whatever business they're in, like being there and seeing that is really fulfilling for me. So I look forward to that. I look forward just to being with my family elsewhere in another setting, reassuring my children it's okay to be outside and emerge into the community. I think they've been afraid to sort of even leave the house sometimes because of all the messaging and the fact that we have been home for so long, that I need them to be back adjusting into the world. Even if we don't really go very far, even if it's just take a drive and go to a beach near us, right? I think will help them.
Same here. We're actually, I thought it would be good to just drive around the city just to get out and see what's going on. So yeah, we're planning a little trip
Trip
downtown.
downtown, trip outside. Yeah.
Well, with that, thank you so much for your time, sharing your inspiring stories and how you're helping small business owners. It really means a lot. I see the small business owners when I walk down our block, and I'm like, how many of them are going to come back? It's really sad. My dry cleaner, the little bookstore, we live right by corner bookstore, which is one of the oldest, independent bookstores. Oh my God, if they disappear, I mean, New York's not going to be the same. So I'm really
Great.
hoping that.
I want to make that kind of urging plea to everybody too, to go back out and support your local businesses, your small businesses when they can reopen, the restaurants, dry cleaners, pizza joints,
Yeah.
ice cream places, right? Exercise places, everything. I think it's so vital to our community, and the people behind it is their livelihoods, it's their passions, and it's the
Yeah,
fabric of our communities. So
definitely.
support.
Well,
Thank you for having me, Min.
thank you, Sam, and have a wonderful weekend.
You too. Take care.
You too. Bye.